economic globalization is inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interest of transnational corporations. Strongly agree. I'd always support my country whether it was right or wrong. Strongly disagree. I mean, that's crazy talk, because then I have to defend the Iraq War. I have to defend, them rigging elections. So no, that's not true. No one chooses their country or no one chooses their country of birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it. I would have to disagree. Only because, with a country, these are your people. These are your people. And these are the people who are affected by the same government you are. These are the people who are paying the same taxes as you are and the same struggle as you are. And we're all bonded by one thing, our nationality. Which, don't get me wrong, I think we should value humanity in general. But, I'm not gonna knock somebody for being a nationalist or having a little bit of patriotism, because at the end of the day, I kind of feel like to some degree, it's natural. Well, as far as culture goes. Our race has many superior qualities compared with other races. Strongly disagree. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Disagree, but not strongly disagree. Only because in certain aspects, depending on the situation, the scenario, you may dislike that enemy. You mean the enemy, if you made that person that may be your potential friend per se, may not like you, may not be after the same thing as you. But in the same aspect, you two can come together to take down your mutual enemy. So it truly depends on the scenario and the situation. But in general, I would have to disagree. Only because that's not always the case. Military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. Strongly disagree on that one. There is now a worrying fusion of information and entertainment. Strongly agree, because if it's not a juicy story, if it's not an entertaining story, the only way it's an entertaining story is if it's a lie, or if it's a stretched out truth. Like, nobody's gonna give a shit about like something that is boring, but is something that is a good story. People are ultimately divided more by class than by nationality. Hell yes, dude. Hell yes. Because guess what? Whether you're black, white, doesn't matter. You're still poor as shit, and they're not going to care about you. It's always been more about class than race. Always. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. Disagree. Only because people still need to eat. People still need an income. Both are bad regardless, Inflation and unemployment is bad regardless. But we still can provide people the bare necessities even with the inflation we have. And just in general. So, because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulation. Of course. The Industrial Revolution, that's all I gotta say. Where they the air was hazardous, had tiny glass particles in it. Hundreds of people would die in a single factory a year. 6-year-old workers, child workers working in unregulated factories. I talk about this all the time. So yeah, strongly agree. From each according to his ability, from each according to his ability, to each according to his need is a fundamentally good idea. Strongly agree. I'm a socialist, so you should put in what you can in your society, and you should be given what is needed. Some people are mentally disabled, physically disabled, so they can't put in the same work as you and I can, but they still need food, they still need shelter. So the free market, the freer the market, the freer the people. Strongly disagree. In fact, I would say that if you make the market too free, it actually tyrannizes people's economic freedoms. Because, if you don't have a minimum wage set, if people are making $3 an hour, then that's not really liberty, is it? That's wage slavery. That's you going home to no lights, no heat, potential repo of your car. So, yeah, and once again, the Industrial Revolution. Are we really a free society when we have 5-year-olds working because despite their parents working 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, they still can't afford the bare necessities? Yeah, let's not do that again. It's a sad reflection on our society that something as basic as drinking water is now a bottled branded consumer product. Strongly agree. I mean, shit, the government would tax the air if they could. People would make profit off of the air if they could. The government and capitalism, they tend to, their interests usually, their interests can work with the consumer's interests, but generally speaking, if it's not profitable, if it's not in their best interest, it's not going to happen, which is why we need to get rid of both. Land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold. Strongly agree. I think the land, hypothetically speaking, if everybody bought all the land in the world, then where would we walk? Where would we get our resources from? I believe that the land was meant to be shared, actually. I believe that we were all meant to share the land together, It's a gift from God. It's a gift from nature. We are human beings. We use nature to consume. And I think, instead of harvesting and hoarding certain resources, why don't we all just work together, collectivize, and share those resources as well as our labor and services that we can provide to each other? That's what I would call self-ownership. Everybody being able to have the things they need to eat, be free, be prosperous. That's the type of world I would like to see. It is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society. Who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing. Yes. I don't know if it's agree or strongly agree. Who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society. I don't know if they're talking about corporatism, capitalism. I don't know what they mean. I'm just going to put agree. Protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade. Yeah, especially when our jobs are always being outsourced. Just look at the trade deals that Trump put in place. Protectionism, like I said earlier, we need to protect our own. And as much as I would love a society where all human beings live together and we're in harmony, we're not. We all have nations and borders, and we need to help our people. And protectionism, I agree with it for the most part. Of course there should be instances where you can trade and stuff on your own on your own time or whatever. But for the most part, I want to keep jobs in the United States. I want wages to be higher. I want more entrepreneurship being done here. So, yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to put agree. The only social responsibility of a company should be should be to deliver a profit to its shareholders. Strongly disagree. I believe people should be able to afford the bare necessities. I believe people shouldn't have to struggle for the benefit of other people's greed. I don't believe in a society like that at all. So, I mean, don't. I believe you have to work. You should have. If you are physically and mentally able to work, you should have to work. Should you be paid wage slavery? No, you shouldn't. The all occupations, especially low wage jobs, they matter. In fact, I would even say they are probably the foundation of this country. Factory workers, blue collar workers. So these people are making the profits. These people are making the productivity. Without them, there would be no Amazon. There would be no Google. There would be no workers. I love how people always say, "Oh, well, just start your own business." Okay, well, with that logic, there would be no workers. There would be no economy. So let's stop defending wage slavery and economic servitude. And how about we give the people who make this country great a living wage, a decent home that they can go to, rather than be stingy. The rich are too highly taxed. Strongly disagree. Shit. I think some of them aren't taxed enough. Some rich people in this country actually pay less taxes than poor people. So no, I don't agree with this at all. Now, do we have to tax the rich up the ass? Not necessarily. I think we should only have taxes where we need taxes. I don't believe in a household tax. That's silly. I don't believe in putting any new taxes on poor or middle class people. I think those people are the ones that are struggling the most. So why are we going to tax them? We should be taxing people who can afford it. People who are better off than these people who can afford these taxes. So I don't think we should tax them up the ass necessarily, but at the same time, I don't mind them paying more of their fair share. Those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. Those with the ability to pay should have access. Disagree. I don't think your medical care. I don't think you should have access to medical care based on money. I think I think you should be covered regardless. I don't think there's any reason why anybody should go bankrupt for medical bills. I think that's silly. The healthcare industry isn't like any other industry. You never know when you're gonna. You never know when you're gonna go to the hospital. You never know when you're gonna need that checkup, and the stuff costs money. And if you don't have the money, then you're either not going to get the care or you're going to go bankrupt because you got cancer. And I don't believe that kind of society is moral. I don't believe people should be punished for getting something like cancer. So yeah. So yes, in fact, I strongly disagree. Governments should penalize businesses that mislead the public. It really depends on what they're misleading the public by. Like if they're giving us if they're giving us poor bad food or something, if they're misplacing a part like in a car that is killing people, then yeah, they should be penalized. But as far as I don't know, lying about a product, being able to light up in the dark for this amount of hours, no, I just probably not. Probably just give them a bad review and let the market handle it. A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. Requires restrictions on the ability of predator. Yes, strongly agree. Not a free market if there's monopolies everywhere. Abortion, when a woman's life is not threatened, should always be illegal. Strongly disagree. I mean, the whole abortion thing is just for people to go to the polls, honestly. Nobody gives a shit about abortion. Even the pro-lifers. Like, come on. Majority of them are like Trump supporters, and they don't give a shit about fetuses after they're out of the womb. How many of them support all these wars we're in? How many of them don't support a living wage? How many of them don't support free college? Like, it's it's okay. It's not okay to have an abortion, but it is okay to give you slavery. It's okay for you to have to depend on food stamps and government assistance. It's not okay for that, but you know, you're a horrible mother, or you're a lazy mother because, oh, I didn't want you to have an abortion. Well, great, but now you're a leech because after I told you not to have that abortion, now you're struggling. Now you're in a abusive relationship. Oh well. So, and on top of that, like, banning abortion as well as social issues have never worked ever. I mean, Romania tried to do it in 1968. That worked for a year. People got around it. You go in South America right now, I mean, abortion pills are pretty accessible. And they are very, like, they work really well. Like 90% of the time. So, abortion doesn't work. It just makes abortions less safer. And it actually kills more women. 6,000 to 8,000 women die from unsafe abortions every year. So, you know, the numbers don't lie. The statistics don't lie. Ironically, pro-life policies kill more fetuses and more women. So, strongly disagree. All authority should be questioned. Always, always, always. And I don't think I have to, like, explain this one. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Strongly disagree. Because I don't believe in the death penalty, right? You know, I don't believe, I don't believe two wrongs make a right. And I think there's also exceptions to different cases. Like, if you were a drunk driver and you ran somebody over and killed them, do you deserve to die as well? Because, I mean, don't get me wrong, there was a very, very stupid and idiotic choice. But do you deserve to die? Did you really intend to kill somebody? No. So I don't really believe in the whole Hammurabi Code. Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. I disagree. Should not be expected to prop up any theatres or museums that cannot survive on commercial basis. I mean, I disagree. Like, there are some things that just aren't profitable. And, you know, things, I mean, if we did have to fund museums, which, I mean, right now we don't. So I don't even know what this question means, honestly. Maybe I'm reading it wrong. I guess it's a hypothetical, but I would disagree with it because, you know, if people aren't going to fund museums if it's not charitable, or zoos or whatever you want to have collectivized, you know, just like with healthcare. 45,000 people die from a lack of healthcare coverage because it's not profitable. So, yes. Schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. Agree. I mean, just getting rid of homework has proven to work in some places. I mean, look at Finland. They have like 3-hour school days. They have no homework. And they're doing pretty much better than us. All people have their rights, but it is better for all of us that different sorts of people should keep to their own kind. What? What? This is for the authoritarians, I guess, because, like, what? Good parents sometimes have to spank their children. Yeah, because sometimes kids don't listen. And, I don't want to hear this liberal bullshit. Oh, well, you can't hit them because you're going to traumatize them. And no, I don't want to hear that. Okay? There's a difference. There's a huge difference between somebody like me and that one parent that is literally struggling to get that toy out of their kid's hands as their kid is screaming to their top of their lungs and calling their mother a bitch. Like, fuck that, okay? You, as a parent, you need control. And sometimes these kids are not going to listen. So, bite me. It's natural for children to keep some secrets from their parents. Yes, of course. Especially if they don't trust their parents, especially if their parents are authoritarians and are clingy and overprotective. Don't get me wrong, I'm a parent. I'm protective of my son, but, some of these parents take it too far, don't you think? Like, don't you think it's kind of weird that some mothers go to prom with their daughters? Or something like that? Like, yeah, of course that's natural. The first step for your kids not to keep secrets from you is to make them trust you and to not have them fear you. Respect you, of course, but don't have them fear you. Don't fucking put your hands on them every single second for the silliest mistakes. I hate old school parents like that. Possessing marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offense. Strongly agree. Millions of Americans are locked up for drug possession alone. That's not a crime. No victim, no crime. The prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generation to find jobs. Disagree. Education is so important. If you don't have a generation that is educated, they end up being as stupid and as ignorant as possible. Noam Chomsky said this, and it turns out to be true. There's a reason why the government isn't doing what they're doing as far as education goes. They want us to be stupid. When you have people who are asking questions, when you have people who have the balls to question the government and just don't simply follow, then you wouldn't get candidates like Trump and Biden. You would have legit candidates like Jill Stein, Joe Jorgensen, Bernie Sanders, although, Bernie Sanders is a whole different story, but the point is we would have patriots and we would have people who are willing to die for these policies, but instead we have sacrificial lambs and propped up people who have no interest in serving you or I. People with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce. Disagree. Definitely disagree. Although, it's not that it's a hard question because I think we should chemically castrate people. It's just like, this is such a messed up question. These are for the authoritarians, honestly. These are definitely for the authoritarians. The most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline. Strongly disagree. Discipline is needed, but that's not the most important thing. That's insane. There are no savage and civilized peoples. There are only different cultures. Agree, but not strongly agree, because then you got different cultures that implement things like Sharia law. So I wouldn't say there is no such thing as savage or civilized people. For the most part, there isn't. Don't get me wrong. But then you have radicals, and you have right-wing extremism, like radical ideologies such as those two. But for the most part, yes, I agree. Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society support. agree. If you can work and you don't want to work, if you just want to mooch off of everybody who's working and putting in the effort, why the hell should we help you? We're all putting in the effort. We're all helping each other out. And the misconception with leftists is we just want everybody to laze around and have handouts and yada, yada, yada. That is complete and utter bullshit. We've never said that, ever. When you are troubled, it's better not to think about it, but to keep busy with cheerful things. Yes, this is how you create psychopaths and school shooters. People need an ear. Everybody needs an ear. Humans are naturally social. Everybody wants to talk here and there. Bottling up your emotions is the worst thing you can do. It's just a bunch of built-up anger. You get angry over things that aren't worth getting angry for, but you're angry at the other thing. That's why I hope one day we can get something like Medicare for all, or we can have mental health research be funded much more. We have a mental health crisis right now. And especially during this pandemic and this crisis where people are literally committing suicide because they don't know how they're going to keep their lights on or how they're going to afford that next bill. We need mental health in this country right now. And it's declining. It's declining, and it's declining fast. First-generation immigrants can never be fully integrated within their new country. That's not true. I think it's like the second or third generation usually tends to assimilate. So, this is just... We know who these questions are for. What's good for the most successful corporations is always ultimately good for all of us. No! Hell no! No! I don't even know how to explain how that one isn't right. No, I mean, you're going to believe what you want with that one, so I'm not even going to try and describe that one. No broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. Should receive public funding. I guess agree. I guess it really depends on the system we're in now. Like, in the system we're in now, government doesn't really need to get involved in that. So I would say agree. Our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counterterrorism. Strongly agree. Look at the Patriot Act, guys, where your Fourth Amendment rights are completely thrown out of the window. The Patriot Act has actually caught more drug dealers than terrorists. Did you guys know that? That's pretty insane. We're being spied on illegally by the NSA for national security. So, this is what happens when you decide that you want to sacrifice your liberties for a false sense of security. You get governments like the United States that are literally violate our constitutional rights on an everyday basis. Can't even own automatic rifles, guys. This is insane. A significant advantage of the one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments that delay progress in a democratic political system. Strongly agree. Look at the two-party system. And people have fallen into line with the two-party system. And then they're going to wonder why we're going to get another Donald Trump. Because we just like to settle for the lesser of two evils. We love settling for war criminals and rapists. So, what do you expect? Although the electronic age makes official surveillance easier, only wrongdoers need to be worried. Strongly disagree. Strongly disagree. How many innocent people have been killed because of the government overstepping and worrying about shit they have no business worrying about unless they had probable cause? Should I say Philando Castile? Should I say Eric Gardner? Should I say Breonna Taylor? I mean, if the government, the government doesn't own us. We own the government. And they've indoctrinated us to believe the complete opposite, but I'm here to tell you that is complete bullshit. Okay? The government is supposed to work for us, despite what you actually think. The death penalty should be an option for the most serious crimes. Strongly disagree. One, like I said, two wrongs don't make a right. If we're gonna make an example, if we're gonna set an example, then we can't have the state kill people. Because two wrongs don't make a right. We're better than those murderers. We're better than those pedophiles. We are not going to kill people. Another reason why we're not going to kill people is because too many innocent people have been wrongly convicted. So now we're killing innocent. We have the state killing innocent people with taxpayer money. Not to mention, life in prison actually saves us money. The typical death row case in Texas costs about $2.3 million. So, not only are we saving money, not only is it the moral thing to do, it's also the death penalty is also unconstitutional. It's against the Eighth Amendment for cruel and unusual punishment. We've also had the botched lethal injections that aren't painless. They're just paralyzed, so they can't react to it. But it's a painful death. There's nothing okay about it. So yes, I'm against the death penalty. In a civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. Strongly disagree. How many anarchist societies have succeeded and only have failed because of the government getting involved and taking them down? The people are so much capable of taking care of themselves than the government is. We're better at taking care of each other than the government is. But we lack the resources and the power to do that. So long as we're going to have a state. Abstract art that doesn't represent anything shouldn't be considered art at all. Strongly disagree. Art is art. I don't care how good it is. I don't care how bad it is. Creativity, performing arts, being able to express yourself, it is so important in a free and civilized society. And I wish we had a system where people had the time and had a reason to self-express. But we don't. In criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. Strongly disagree. And when you look at places like Scandinavia, where, people go in, they get to have an amazing lifestyle, and they have that amazing lifestyle so that when they get out, they set their goals to get that lifestyle back. And it has worked much more than our current system. Don't get me wrong, there should be punishment, obviously, but, putting people in solitary confinement, police, correctional officer brutality, things like that it's just disgusting, and that shouldn't be in a civilized society. It is a waste of time to try and rehabilitate some criminals. Strongly agree. Wait. But what does it mean, though? It is a waste of time to rehabilitate some criminals. Does this mean that we shouldn't try to rehabilitate criminals, or does this just mean we shouldn't try to rehabilitate some criminals? I'm just going to put agree, just in case. But I just wish they would have phrased it differently so I could answer it more accurately, but whatever. The business person and the manufacturer are more important than the writer and the artist. Strongly disagree. Oh my God, strongly disagree in a heartbeat. Ideas can have so much more power than money. That's for sure. But they're both are as equally powerful. Mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. Strongly disagree. This is for like the authoritarians who still believe in the 1950s rhetoric. Multinational companies are unethical, exploiting the plant genetic resources of the developing countries. Multinational companies are unethical, exploiting the plant genetic resources of developing countries. I wonder if I can just leave that blank. Making peace with the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. No, we shouldn't make peace with the establishment because the establishment is the establishment for a reason. We're going to make peace. They're going to manipulate us so that the establishment is still established. So, no, they're basically our enemies. People like Nancy Pelosi, basically the whole legislative branch, they're our enemies. And they don't give a shit about you. So, no, we shouldn't try and make peace with them. We should make them do their job. Their job is to serve the American people. And right now they're not doing that. Our civil liberties are being so I have to are unethical, exploiting. Astrology accurately explains many things. I guess agree. I don't know too much about astrology. I don't know exactly how much I know we've discovered some things. I don't know exactly how many things we have discovered because of astrology, but I agree with that for the most part. You cannot be moral without being religious. Strongest. I mean, Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King, who else? Donald Trump pretends to be religious. I mean, all these people are religious, but they had, to some degree, they didn't have morals. I mean, MLK cheated on his wife. MLK would beat hookers up. Donald Trump is a war criminal. Mother Teresa screwed a lot of orphans. So, yeah. Charity is better than Social Security as a means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. No, charity has proven that it can't take care of the general welfare of people. Because, one, not enough people are charitable. And two, if everything was voluntary, we would have a few who chip in, and then the rest would just mooch off, which is, I would say, even a worse system than what the opposition talks about. So, I wish we could live in a world where there was no government and that we could all collectivize and have the things we need just because we collectivize, but we don't have that right now. We have a state, we have taxes, we need to figure out what we can do in the system we have now. Some people are naturally unlucky. Yes, of course. Some people are just born to lose. And unfortunately, it's because of a lot of the socioeconomic disadvantages that we see. Some people are just born to fail. It is important that my child's school instills religious values. Strongly disagree. I'm very into politics. I'm passionate about politics. Am I ever going to teach my son about politics? No. I want him to come up with his own conclusion. I want critical thinking to be taught in every school. I want the government being questioned to be taught in school. Sex outside marriage is usually immoral. Strongly disagree. Many people fall in love. Many people are just really horny. I mean, you can be a great person and be a horny freak. And that's totally fine, so long as you aren't harming anybody else. A same-sex couple in a stable, loving relationship should not be excluded from the possibility of child adoption. Yeah, as long as they pass the same background checks as straight couples. Pornography depicting consenting adults should be legal for the adult population. Excuse me. Strongly agree. You know, that is a service and a product that the people want. Give the people what they want. That's what the market is supposed to do, right? What goes on in a private bedroom between consenting adults is no business of the state. Strongly agree. No one can feel naturally homosexual. Strongly disagree. These days, openness about sex has gone too far. Disagree. That last one is very interesting. Because, don't get me wrong, there are some people who are old fashioned who want to keep their sex life to themselves, which is fine. But I don't really necessarily see a problem in people openly discussing their sex life, unless, the other person is uncomfortable, and obviously. But other than that, maybe we should just have these discussions so that maybe there's some certain fantasies or things that one might want to try and have never tried and could get advice from another person about it. I don't know. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with being open about sex. Ooh. Actually, guys, let's read this together, because I've never read this before. In the introduction, we explained the inadequacies of the traditional left-right line. If we recognize that this is essentially an economic line, it's fine, as far as it goes. We can show, for example, Stalin, Mao Zedong, and Pol Pot with their commitment to a totally controlled economy on the hard left. Socialists like Mahatma Gandhi and Robert Mugabe would occupy a less extreme leftist position. Margaret Thatcher would be well over the right, but further right still would be someone like that ultimate free marketeer General Pinochet that deals with economics, but the social dimension is also important in politics. That's the one that the mere left-right scale doesn't adequately address, so we've added one, ranging the positions from extreme authoritarian to extreme libertarian. You know what? You guys can read this. I don't want to bore you. Look at this. So, Stalin is to the left. Hitler was centrist right, extreme authoritarian. Gandhi, looks like Gandhi was a socialist. Milton Friedman, yeah, that makes sense. I don't know how, I think Friedman was more libertarian, though, that's for sure. I don't think he was that authoritarian. A word about neocons and neolibs. Actually, let's read this. This looks important. U.S. neoconservatives, with their commitment to high military spending and the global assertion of national values, tend to be more authoritarian than hard right. By contrast, neoliberals opposed to such moral leadership and more especially the assuring demands on the taxpayer belong to the further right but less authoritarian region. Paradoxically, the free market in neocon balance also allows for large-scale subsidy for the military-industrial complex, a considerable degree of corporate welfare and protectionism when it deemed in the national interest. These are viewed by neolibs as impediments to the unfettered market forces that they champion. Okay, so let's see where. Oh wow! Oh God! Oh wow! I am far left. Oh wow! I did not expect this. I definitely did not expect this conclusion. Let me screenshot this. Wow, that is crazy. I have come a long way, guys. I wish I could show you. Actually, let me try. Okay. So, if we're looking at the libertarian left, go right 2, and then go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I probably used to be 2, -6 on the right libertarian spectrum. This, though, is insane. Have I gone full on communist? Psst. I have two ideologies at this point. A theoretical one and a realistic one. Theoretically, I like the idea of anarcho-communism, anarcho-syndicalism. I like to think of myself as an empiricist. I think we should look at the data, look at the things that have worked. And we've seen left-wing anarchy work in the past. Realistically, though, I'm a left-wing libertarian. I believe in small government, but on economics, I am a social democrat. I believe in an economic bill of rights. I believe Medicare for all is a human right. I believe we should have a generation that is well educated, critical thinking. I believe in a living wage. As far as libertarianism goes, I want to get rid of the Patriot Act. I want to legalize all drugs. I want to repeal every single gun control law that is on the books. I want us to get out of all of these illegal and offensive wars that we are in. What else do I want? I want the government to stop spying on us illegally. And much more importantly, I want the government to get the fuck out of our bedroom and out of our pockets. Okay? What we need a system that makes us liberated, not just on the individual level, but on the economic level. We talk about self-ownership a lot on the libertarian aisle, right? And we talk about this simply due to the fact that the government, let alone a business or a corporation, should own you. You should be able to be self-sufficient, be able to own yourself. And the government should give you those tools so that you can be as free and as happy and as prosperous as humanly possible. Okay? We want people to work. We don't want to just give people handouts and have people lazy around. That's bullshit. That's a lie. We want a society that is productive, and that is free, and that is moral. And it just really comes down to the battle of ideas, man. And after we have the battle of ideas, we need to have the battle of balls. Because then how are we going to implement these laws? How are we going to implement these liberties that we need? That's a trick question. So, yes, this was interesting. Huge surprise, but I mean, I'm satisfied with the results.